Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. Ladies and gentlemen, to start the NL Central talk, we're going to head to Pittsburgh as the Pirates were the fifth place team with a 76-86 record. You may have heard of a few of their guys. They have been nothing but top prospects for their entire career. Exciting. Fans and players alike have been raving about their potential. Of course, sports media writers have been talking them up for years, and we finally got to see some of that come to fruition here in 2024. We got to see Mr. Paul Skeens. We got to see a full year of O'Neal Cruz. We got to see another year of a talented player playing in the outfield, being super consistent, and more importantly, we got to see some of the most electric baseball from a subpar team, honestly. Let's go ahead and talk about the team leaders. There were some veterans and some youngsters in these categories, but of course we'll start with a veteran, Andrew McCutchen. He led the team in walks. Then we're going to move to O'Neal Cruz, who we mentioned also. He led the team in doubles, stolen bases, slugging, and strikeouts. Then we're going to go to Mr. Do-It-All, Do-Everything, consistent, Mr. Brian Reynolds. We don't need to talk too much about everything that he does for the team, but he is Mr. Consistent. This is the fourth straight year since 2021. He had 145 games played. He had 80-plus RBIs in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He stole 10 or more bases the last 2 seasons and has 20 home runs in each of the last 4 seasons. So, again, he is Mr. Consistent, and I am excited to try to get him on my teams this upcoming year because you're guaranteed 60 to 80 runs. You're guaranteed 20 home runs. You're guaranteed a few stolen bases here, and depending on who gets on base, could look at 70, 80, even more. He topped out at 90 RBIs at some point in time in his career, so really like the idea of him getting on my team. But also, some other youngsters. We're going to start with O'Neal Cruz. Now, this man is imposing on the field. He's like 6'7", 6'8", rocket for an arm. I think he's had the highest exit velocity of anyone in the last however long the StatCast has been around. He can absolutely play ball. However, 2024, we saw what could be for O'Neal Cruz and pretty much what we expect from him. He stole 22 bases. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's also a year after breaking his ankle. Now, he only played, I think, 9 games in 2023, broke his ankle coming into home, trying to score, did play again in 2024, and again, did well. However, 22 bases is not what we expect from him. We expect more. Long stride, he's fast, probably looking at 30, 40, really. But again, that is the first year coming off a broken ankle. He's definitely going to get more. And of course, more health, more confidence, working in the off season to get more speed. So I think he'll be, 30, potentially 40 at most. Now, he's not going to be no Ellie Cruz. He's not going to be a Ronald Acuna on the base paths, but you get what I'm saying. On the other hand, to steal bases, you have to get hits. And getting hits means you don't get strikeouts. And O'Neal Cruz had 181 strikeouts this past year. Whew, that's a lot. We talked about Zach Geloff having 188, and that was tied for 4th most. 181? That couldn't be too much further down. 10, 15, maybe. So, of all the players that played in 2024, 181 strikeouts is, again, probably in the top 10, top 15. We know you can hit, man. And speaking of hitting, where are the home runs? You hit 21 in 146 games in 2024, but you hit 17 in 87 games in 2022. Again, are you selling out against the home run? Are you trying to get on base more? Because if that's what you're trying to do, maybe don't strike out as much. Maybe hit more home runs, In addition to Cruz, Pirates fans should be excited about Nick Johnson. 3rd-year second baseman, absolutely played above his head and increased or decreased stats that show that he is absolutely learning on the job and he's ready to take the next step. He did triple his walks from 23 to 24. Now, granted, he only had 6 walks in 23. He had 18 walks in 24. So it's nothing sexy, but that's still triple the number. He also continued to show patience at the plate. He did strike out 36 times in 23. He only struck out 74 times in 24. I may be thinking, that's a good number more strikeouts. It's double the strikeouts. but he played in 59 more games in 24. So that's less than a strikeout an extra game for him. While he's accumulating more walks and less strikeouts, he's also making sure he's putting himself in scoring position. Of his 97 hits this past year, he has 19 doubles. So he is able to put himself in scoring position 20% of the time that he hits the ball. That's really good, especially if you do have some of these other guys like Brian Reynolds or even Spencer Horwitz, who is a new addition this year, absolutely being able to put the ball in play, getting him around to get a run and an RBI for your team. The next young guy I want to talk about is Joey Bart. This man seems like he's been in the league forever, but he has spent 4 seasons with the Giants before being traded to the Pirates and made himself at home. He did play in 97 games in a year before with the Giants, and he did decently. He hit 20 home runs, put some RBIs up, and hit right around the Mendoza line. However, in his 2024 season with the Pirates, his first, he absolutely shined. In fact, he was able to increase his hits, runs, RBIs, doubles, home runs, and all of his percentages by up to 200 points. That's crazy. So, what else can Mr. Joey Bart do? Well, let me tell you, he decreased his walks by 4 and decreased his strikeouts by 39. He only played 80 games, so that's 17 less, but holy cow. You mean to tell me that 39 strikeouts over a 17 game period, that decrease, is it improvement? Oh my goodness, it is. 2025 right around the corner. Bart is ready to play in more games this year, be the main backstop for them because they only have youngsters behind them, even younger than Bart. They have Indy Rodriguez and also Henry Davis in AAA. Both of those guys, again, very young and very inexperienced, so Joey Bart it is. As much as I would love to continue talking about these young prospects and how much I'm excited for them, I now have to talk about Ke'Bryan Hayes. A once top 10 MLB prospect, he has faded year after year. 2023 wasn't terrible. However, 2024 just went off the rails. Now, he did suffer a herniated disc, so that absolutely had something to do with it. But the underperformance from when he had a pretty decent rookie year, he was hitting 250, 260, putting up some RBI, some runs, some home runs, getting people excited about him, and he's just continued to fade. It's been unfortunate. I can only imagine how frustrating it is for Pirates fans. Someone like me, I wanted to get him in fantasy because I thought he was going to do well, but the organization itself must be the most frustrated because they literally built this team in some fashion around him. He played the hot corner. Third base is definitely a position you need someone good at, and they thought they had their man. They might still have their man, but 2025 has absolutely not been great for him. He did seem like he had some issues with his back or his side. They said it wasn't related to the back injuries that kept him on the NL a few times last season, and he is, according to recent reports, back to baseball activities, but how far along is he? How much did that put him back? And what is his health concern moving forward? We're going to move to the pitching. And I know everyone wants to talk about him. Mitch Keller, he was the do-it-all guy for this team. He did lead the team in multiple categories. That Paul Skeens guy, he did okay too. In all seriousness though, Skeens did lead the team in strikeouts. I think he had 170 and Mitch Keller had like 168, 166. He also technically led the team in ERA and WHIP, even though he didn't reach 162 innings minimum. But he did tie Mitch Keller for the most quality starts and the most wins on the team. Mitch Keller literally led the team in everything else. Except, of course, holds and saves. Because Aroldis Chapman led the team in holds. And David Bednar led the team in saves. I know everyone's expecting me to talk about Paul Skeens. Do I really need to? He's good. Everyone knows it. I do want to talk about 2 other youngsters on this team. Well, one no longer on this team. That really made steps forward for this team last year. Luis Ortiz and Mr. Jared Jones. If you go and look at Jared Jones' ESPN and Yahoo picture, he looks like a baby face. Like, it looks like there's a filter on his face. I just think it's funny. First guy we're talking about is Luis Ortiz. This man did start 15 games last year, had 7 quality starts, and appeared in 22 more while he was able to pick up a hold and a save. Even with all those different types of starts or appearances in the game, he was able to rack up a 3.3 ERA and a 1.11 WHIP. Now, he's not a flame-throwing strikeout guy, but there were 10 times last year where he struck out 5 or more. So if you look at the 15 games he started, if you're able to get 5 or more strikeouts in 66% of those or 2/3 of those, that's not bad. Also, quality starts came in half of them. Well, a little less than half of those. That's not bad at all, especially when you can bring him in relief in some fashion. Now, his best month was July. He had a 1.75 ERA with 25 innings pitched. Woo! The Indians now have a great guy on their staff, another strong contender for a back end of a rotation. So I really like the fact that he is able to get some strikeouts and get a little more protection from him from the batters, because the Indians have a lot bit better of a lineup than the Pirates. Now we're going to move to Jared Jones. This man started off his MLB career hot. His first game was against the Marlins, and he just happened to go 5 2/3, just short of a quality start, giving up 3 earned runs and striking out 10. What a start. In fact, he started 22 games and had 11 quality starts. So again, half the time this man's keeping you in the game by 3 runs or less. Dude, he must have done great, right? In fact, he followed up his March start with a 2.86 ERA April, followed by a 3.9 ERA in May and June. Now, the Pirates did want to limit his workload, so he did falter a little bit towards the end because he wasn't pitching as long and was giving up some more runs. They eventually caught on to him. He ended the season with a 4.14 ERA and a 1.19 whip. Not terrible, but he will look to increase his workload next year and hopefully revert back to the April, May, and June numbers opposed to the others where they were 5 or more. Once you got past the starters, Skeens, Keller, Jones, and Ortiz, whoever the 5th starter was, it was a little shaky. And it was very unfortunate, because you would think David Bednar, coming off a 2.0 ERA, sub-1 whip, and a pretty decent strikeout total in 2023, would be the guy. Made the All-Star team as well. Nope, he had a 5.7 ERA with a 1.4 whip. Ooh. He also blew 7 saves. Ooh. Well, we talked about Aroldis Chapman. He was second on the team in saves and first on the team in holds. He did well, right? He blew 5 saves. He did strike out 98, though, so I mean, you weren't getting the save, and you were getting a blown save, and you weren't helping your ERA or your whip, but you were getting strikeouts, right? Right? So moving from one shaky part of the bullpen to a more reliable part, the best name in all of baseball, especially when it comes to relievers, Colin Holderman, did lead the team in holds in 2023 with 27, but was second on the team with 21 this past year because Aroldis Chapman was there. Now, the hold man isn't going to blow you away, but he usually will get at least 1 strikeout an inning. He did have a 3.16 ERA and a 1.3 whip, so walks with 25 in 51 innings pitched is definitely an issue for him. Can't be giving those up. So this team does have potential, and they brought in a few guys that can absolutely help with that. First of all, starting pitcher Andrew Heaney. This man can throw strikes. He can throw strikes. He's not going to throw a lot of innings, and he might be hurt a lot, but he can throw strikes. They also picked up a little bit of help in the bullpen with Tim Meza, has spent the last few years with the Blue Jays. Did pick up some saves, mostly a holds guy, so he's going to be another reinforcement to that bridge to Mr. David Bednar. Some of the offense they brought in, we touched on Spencer Horwitz. He can play first and or second. He will likely be the main first baseman. And Mr. Tommy Pham. I love Tommy Pham. He is pretty consistent anywhere he goes as long as he's not injured, and he is going to have to play well because the Pirates lost more than they gained. They did lose several big starting pitchers. Okay, not big starting pitchers, but for a team like the Pirates, they were big. Quinn Priester, Martin Perez, and Luis Ortiz. Those 3 may not be the sexiest names, but a 4th pitcher that they lost because of injury, they lost him last year, and it's not looking good for this year, is Johan Oviedo. This guy can throw strikes, and as someone who has him on some fantasy teams, I hate that he is not on the field because, again, this guy can throw strikes. He's going to serve up a meatball or 2, or 3, but he'll get you some strikes. Another pitcher they actually did lose that actually was a biggie was Aroldis Chapman. He is now with the Red Sox, so that stinks for me because he was a former Yankee as well. I honestly don't like Aroldis Chapman, though. Batting-wise, they lost Rowdy Tellez, who's not the sexiest name. He definitely has been around a while, but the organization really cheaped out with him. I think he needed a few more at-bats, like 5 or something, so it would have been difficult to get them, but he could have gotten close. The organization decided not to play him because they didn't want to pay him. What if they went into extra innings? You could have gotten those 5 at-bats, but I digress. Another big bat they lost was Brian De La Cruz. Came over from the Marlins, and now he's with the Braves. So, from a very bad situation to an even worse situation to now a very good situation. At the end of the day, I think this team can absolutely go 500. Not necessarily chasing any wild cards or pennants, but definitely 500 team. Health when it comes to pitching, Adrian Hayden needs to step up. Need to get 162 innings from all of their guys. Doesn't really matter about the wins as long as they're getting some quality starts, keeping the teams in the game. Bullpen definitely needs to step up as well. David Bednar, you can't have a 5 ERA, man. The offensive side, O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Spencer Horwitz, guys need to step up. We also need Nick Gonzalez to take a next step forward. And we need Cabrian Hayes to find his life and do better. For the next episode, we're going to be traveling to Cincinnati to talk about the Reds. I'm excited to talk about this Reds team. They're young, they're talented, and they got rid of one of my favorite players, Jonathan India. So, this is Jake Aiken, and I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.